Like I said, man, like I have no idea how to play double board PLO bomb pots. I can't even play regular PLO. G'day poker people, welcome back to the vlog. It's currently about 6:30 p.m. in Melbourne and today we've got something special, going to another live home game. I've played this home game one time before, but there was plenty of action, plenty of interesting hands I played. I lost about 900 last time I played this game, so hopefully we can improve on that today. But either way, going to be looking to get in some action. Let's not waste any more time, let's get in the game. So we sat down to play a bit of 1-3, so I only bought in for 300 initially, but literally straight away, everyone agreed to do a straddle, so it was a 1-3-6 game right from the jump, and I did end up adding on later in the session just to play a bit deeper, but the element that made this game really, really fun in particular was we had a button bounty on. Every time the button got round to any player at the table, they would add $5, and then if you won the button, you won all the money that was on there. But then additionally, whenever anyone at the table won the button bounty, we would automatically have a double board PLO bomb pot. Even just saying that as a potential game, a hand to play, like the degeneracy is just crazy from the jump. So as you can probably imagine, super action-packed session. Let's get into the first hand now. So starting things off, I have ace-5 of clubs on the button. There are two limpers, so when the action gets round to me, I go ahead and raise it up to 30, and then only the cutoff, who originally limped, throws in the call. A flop of ace-queen 8, rainbow with one club. When the opponent checks it over to me, I think this is a good spot to go ahead and bet for value. I'll be betting this board a lot with my range just because I'm going to easily represent the strongest aces on the board. So I go ahead and bet 25 and the opponent pretty much snap calls. So we're off to the turn, which is the king of clubs. The opponent checks it over to me and this turn is really, really good for my range. I'm going to have so many two pairs on this board, a few straights as well with my jack 10 suited combinations. But with that being the case, I actually kind of think it's not a good spot to go for thin value when I do have a more middling strength hand like ace-5 suited, just because I'm going to get a lot of folds on this turn if I do use a large bet sizing. So if I did have any bluffs, I think this would be a great spot to mix them in. But when it's that thin value hand, I think it's a better hand to work in my checking range, which is what I decided to do in the game. So we got to see a free river, which is an absolutely beautiful one. It is the 6 of clubs. So we do river the literal nut flush, and then the opponent goes ahead and bets 55. So we're loving that news already. We only bought into the game for 300, so we have about 220-ish behind. So it's pretty much the biggest no-brainer decision ever to go all in, trying to get max value from two pairs. It's also possible my opponent could have backdoored a flush themselves. I rip it all in, and then my opponent doesn't think too long before eventually folding the ace of spades face up. Good fold by them. Probably going to be hard to get value from that hand, even with like a min click or something. Starting off the session, raking in a pot. What can go wrong when you win the first hand in a session? It's a good luck sign, right? So we're still playing some 1-3-6 and the action's on me under the gun with pocket tens. Easiest decision in the world here to open raise this hand. I go ahead and make it 15 and then two field calls, call until the action gets round to a loose aggressive small blind. They go ahead and raise it up to 70. So when the action gets back to me here, we still have less than 100 big blinds, straddles, I guess, if you want to get technical. So I'm absolutely happy to get pocket tens all in pre-flop here. I think the range of hands my opponent is going to be squeezing over so many field callers. It includes a lot of like ace jack offsuit, king queen. It's probably going to include even the worst pocket pairs like 9s through 7s. I just think this is a slam dunk spot to go ahead and rip it all in for a bit of value, bit of equity denial, but that's what I go ahead and do. Rip it all in for just under 400. Two field callers fold and the action is back on the loose aggressive small blind, and they hit the tank and they're in there for probably about 2 minutes, and during their tanking someone asked him like, what are you thinking with? Do you have pocket tens or something? And he's like, mate, I would have snap called with pocket tens. So absolutely positive we're ahead here and definitely want to call at this point. and they're in the tank for a bit longer before throwing in that call pretty reluctantly, as you can see there. I go ahead and show my pocket tens, and they show king queen offsuit. So we are 50-50 for a flip. They ask if we want to run it once or twice, and initially I say I don't care, but then they're like, oh, I don't care either. I'm like, fine, whatever, let's just go one time. Pocket tens versus king queen suited. Can we win a flip here? We got it live on the vlog. That's a good card. Two of diamonds is a good card. Two of hearts is also a good card, just no king, no queen. Five of spades really good, no backdoor straights for them. And there we go. We end up scooping that pot in with our pocket tens, and already 2 pots straight away that we've won in the hand. Running hot so far this session, and it does feel pretty good, I can't lie. So next hand we get 1 limper from the cutoff, and then the action is on a loose aggressive big blind who opens it up to 35. Then I look down at some good news in the straddle. Pocket kings, easiest 3-bet in the world. I go ahead and raise it up to 100 here, and honestly I think this is a bit of a mistake. Against big blind open, I actually think they're going to be calling a 3-bet pretty much 100% of the time, so I really should just be raising it up bigger with a linear range, and I think even going like 130 wouldn't be out of the question here. So a bit of a mistake, only raise it to 100, but then the action gets back to the big blind and they do throw in the call. So we go heads up to a flop, which is queen 10-3, rainbow. The opponent checks it over to me, and I think in this spot we have an absolute slam dunk c-bet spot. Looking to get a bit of value here from queen x, 10x. I even think my opponent might even float with something like pocket sixes, pocket sevens. I go ahead and bet 80. And then my opponent throws in the call pretty quickly. So we are off to the turn, which is the 7 of hearts, putting out backdoor hearts. The opponent checks it over to me, and I think this spot is another no-brainer decision to just keep betting for value. Still trying to build a pot against a queen. Still, there's a bunch of like open-ended straight draws, jack 9, king jack. Now there's backdoor hearts. The 7 doesn't really change much except for making the board more wet. I think it's somewhat possible my opponent might have like queen 7 suited or 10-7 suited, but I can't be too worried about those hands. I just need to keep betting for value. So the fact that I did actually check back, I think is a pretty significant mistake. In my head, I thought the opponent was floating the flop super wide, so I can check here to induce a bet from them on the river, but that's totally backwards. I think I should be betting again because their range is so wide and they can still call so wide, so absolutely kicking myself, but I did check it back. And then we were off to the river, which was like literally the worst river in the deck because it was the ace of hearts. Ugh. Now we have second pair and backdoor flush draw got in. My opponent has a bunch of 2-pair combinations now with their ace-x floats. So when they go ahead and bet 165, it puts me in a pretty awkward spot. The king jack. That realistically, the only bluffs I put them on are some of those like, if they did float with like pocket 5, something like that, if they're turning that into a bluff, plus jack 9 as well, it's a totally legitimate hand they could be bluffing with, but they're the only ones. I think they have so many flushes, I think they have so many ace-x, and honestly I think some of those 1-pair hands will just be checking to try and get to showdown on this river, which is going to be good for my range. So I actually did decide to make the laydown with pocket 10s, and straight away my opponent shows me jack 9 of spades. So they actually did have one of the possible bluffing hands in their range, and yeah, I get absolutely owned here with the river bluff. I don't really regret the fold just because I do think my opponent is going to have a lot of 2 pairs and flushes when they bet the river, but not betting the turn, I think that's a very significant mistake, and it's actually one of the bigger mistakes I make in this entire session, to be honest. So definitely kicking myself for not betting the turn there. So next up we get a limp under the gun, and then I'm on the button. I got about $40 on this bounty, and I look down at ace queen offsuit, absolutely dream spot here. Gonna go ahead and raise it up to 25, and then the action gets back to the limper who throws in the call. So we go heads up to a flop of ace 10 8 rainbow. The action's on me. Definitely want to go ahead and c-bet my top pair for value here. I think my opponent can potentially limp call with a bunch of ace-x hands, but still going to size it down, which we're going to do with a lot of our range here. So I go ahead and bet 15, and then my opponent throws in the call. So we're off to the turn, which is the 2 of hearts, putting out backdoor hearts. The opponent checks it over to me again, and the opponent only started off the hand with about 200. So at this point, they only have about 150 behind. So I think it's a pretty no-brainer decision to rip it all in, trying to get max value from those ace-x hands. So that's what I do. I put it all in, and then my opponent literally says to me that I was trapping pre-flop, and Now I think I'm behind, and I'm like, oh, I might be stuffed here then. And then they show me that they had pocket kings. Now that there's already an ace out there, it's going to be hard to get value here, but they're in the tank before very reluctantly throwing in the call. We show them the ace queen, and then we get asked, do we want to run it once or twice? And I'm like, oh, let's just run it once. And then the opponent's like, no, I really want to run it twice. And I'm like, sure, that's fine, whatever. So we're off to the first river. That's a safe one for us with the 7 of diamonds. The second one, it's the king of hearts. So we end up chopping this pot. They hit the 2-outer to scoop half of the pot. Bit of run bad there on the second board, but everyone at the table was like jumping up and down, screaming stuff, going crazy to see the 2-outer. So it's even though, you know, I didn't quite realize my equity on the hand, it was still fun to just get such a reaction out of everyone at the table. So because we won the first run out in that previous pot, we actually still got to keep the button bounty, which I'm pretty stoked for, to win the 40 at least. So it wasn't a total chop, but the really thing I'm excited about now, because I won the button, we're going to do a PLO double pour bomb pot now. Anytime the button won a hand, we did one of these. So, yep, crazy action. And the action's on me on the button, and I have King, Queen, 10, deuce with 1 diamond draw, and actually there's no pre-flop action. We just see 2 flops. The first flop is King 8-8 with 2 spades, and the second board is Ace 10-7 with 2 hearts. So the action actually does check round to me on the flop, and I think it's a pretty interesting decision with what to do on this hand. We do have a top pair on the first board, but I actually went ahead and I bet the size of the pot here, really just trying to deny equity to people on the first board. You know, if there's an ace on the turn, we know we don't have the best hand anymore. Plus, we do have a lot of good turns for us on the second board. We can make the nuts on a jack. We have a bunch of outs to make 2 pair. So I do just like to push my equity, and the fact that no one else has bet into the pot quite yet, maybe it's a bit less likely that someone has an 8, but yes, you know, if someone had an 8, I feel like they'd really want to bet at it with the flush draws out there to try and deny equity. So I do take that information into consideration when I go ahead and bet 80. This might be a bit of an overplay, betting into so many people. I don't know, man, like, how are you meant to play strategy when there's like anyone can have anything at any point? I don't know, but I went ahead and bet the size of the pot here, and then I get no less than 3 different callers. So yeah, super multi-way to the turn. Still, the pot is 400. Pretty much everyone has less than a pot size bet left. So we go to see the turn. The first turn is the Queen of Spades, which gives us 2 pair, but does put in the front door flush draw. And the second turn is the Knight of Hearts, putting the front door flush on the second board, completing out there. So these, despite making 2 pair on the top board, these are really, really bad turns for us. The chances that like someone out of the other 3 players has a flush on either the first or the second board, extremely, extremely high. Just so much I lose to. So when the under the gun player just goes ahead and bets pot, I think they went all in for like 380 or something, and then the low jack calls, they're all in. When the cutoff folds, the action's on me, and I just think I have to fold here. The chances that I'm drawing dead on the second board are almost like 100%, and then on the first board, I probably do have some outs to improve to a full house, but I'm just not calling this large of a bet to try and draw to win half of a pot when I know I'm behind on the second board. So just have to lay this one down, I think, and fortunately I make the right play this time, and I do lay that one down. And then the other 2 were all in, so we do actually get to see what they had. And the first player they did turn the nut flush on the first board, as well as they had 2 pair on the second board. So we do have some outs to beat them on the first board, but this is why I can't call, because like I'm just drawing dead on this second board, and it's like, what am I going to like call off 380 to try and bloody hit a full house with 4 outs? Like, come on, no, I can't be doing that. So they actually end up scooping the pot. The other player had 2 pair as well, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, pretty happy that I did get away from this one. So next hand we have some semblance of return to sanity, as we're only playing 2 card PLO for this hand, and I'm under the gun with pocket 7, so I go ahead and raise it up to 15. Then we get a cold call from the cutoff, but before the button can act, the straddle actually goes ahead and 3 bets out of turn, accidentally, I'm pretty sure, but they go ahead and make it 75, and then the dealer informs the button they still have the option to do whatever the hell they want to do at this point, and they actually decide to just call the 77 straight away. So the small blind and big blind fold, the action's back on me. We only started the hand with about 600 effective at this point, and the problem with this hand is we're not getting great odds to set mine considering the opponent raised it up to 60, but I still kind of want to call, just with, we already know that the button's overcalled here, they're not going to have the chance to take the action again, unless a cutoff raise, which is not going to happen in all honesty. So I kind of want to call, getting a price to see a set against two opponents. The chances that we stack someone with a set is much, much higher. I don't want to 4-bet bluff here. I will considering it in some instances just because I think the button's range is capped, but I really do think the big blind has a strong hand here, and the fact that they 3-bet out of turn, I think that's likely that they've just looked down at a really strong hand like kings or aces or ace king, and they're just like, put money in the pot now. So I'm not great with live reads, but I think that one's pretty solid, so I don't want to 4-bet bluff here. I do decide to call the 75, and then we go 3 ways to a flop. The flop is ace 8-4 rainbow, so pretty big whiff for us. The straddle does check it over to us though, and I think in this spot I don't really want to bluff at it. I do think that it's likely the 3-better has a hand like jacks, queens or kings, but I really don't think they're going to fold it to 1-bet. So I go ahead and check it here, plus have to be worried about the button cold calling with like ace queen, ace jack, stuff like that. So I go ahead and check it over to them, and then they do decide to check back. So we're off to a turn, which is a repeat ace, putting out backdoor spades, and then the straddle decides to go ahead and bet at it. Now they go ahead and bet 100, and easiest fold in the world for me with pocket sevens here. I do think that they could have potentially checked an ace king on the flop, so that's in their range some of the time. If they did have jacks through kings, like this is kind of a safe turn for that. So I really think it's likely to have one of those hands, and I'm drawing 2 outs with sevens, which isn't great. So they went ahead and bet 100, and then the button decided to throw in the call. So I'm still out of this hand at this point, but I really wanted to go over it because I still think this hand is interesting with what the other opponents did. So they're off to the river, which is the third ace, the ace of diamonds, and then the straddle thinks for a bit before deciding to check, and then the action's on the button, and they think for a bit before deciding to bet out 125, and then the straddle sighs a bit, and they end up throwing in the call, and then the button shows they had ace 10 of clubs, and the straddle had pocket kings, and then there was sort of a bit of dialogue at the table in terms of like what sides the button should have bet there, and I was actually pretty torn myself, because on one hand, like the straddle is going to have a lot of those really strong full houses in their range, so I kind of like want to bet really big when I do have quads there, but the problem with betting really big, it's like, what are you going to be bluffing with? Like, you have so many aces in your range, it's going to be so obvious you have quads, and you're trying to get value from the strong full houses that, like, overbetting to, like, 500s, like, I don't really know if that's a good idea. Like, it's just so face up. So I think the opponent on the button was, like, kicking themselves for not betting bigger, but I really think down betting does make a bit of sense, just because, like, just to give, like, kings a price to call when it's obvious you're going to have quads. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I think I prefer a down bet. You know, I probably bet like 200 or something there with the quads, but hop in the comments below. What size would you bet on the river? Super curious to hear what you guys have to say about this hand. So someone won on the buttons. We're doing another double board bomb pot. And as we cringe through me trying to peel 4 cards like an absolute noob, I'm going to put the hand up there. I'm also going to put the boards up. And as you can see, we do have top pair and a flush draw on the first board. And then we have top set on the second board, but it's monotone and it's very straighty. But regardless, absolutely monster hands for us to have here. We're going to have so much equity, even against, like, if opponents have a set on the first board and a flush on the second board. Like, we have so much outs against those hands anyway, so this is an absolute monster for us. So when the action checks to me in the hijack, I think we just absolutely have to go ahead and bet this hand here. I decide to pot it to 80, just really trying to push my equity. And then I only get 1 call from the cutoff to my direct left. So we're off to see both of the turns. The first turn is the Ace of Clubs, beautiful turn for us. We now have top 2 pair, and the second board is the 10 of Clubs. It's not the most ideal turn card for us on the second board. I think the best play is still to pot it, just to really push that equity. We pretty much have the best hand on the first board. We can still get called by worst 2 pairs there. If the opponent does have a hand like 2 pair on the top flop, like maybe they only have 2 pair on the second board and we can still get called by a worse hand. I'm not really sure if it's the right play though. Maybe we're just like free rolling like a chop if my opponent does have a straight or a flush on the second board. Like I said, man, like I have no idea how to play double board PLO bomb pots. I can't even play regular PLO. So a lot of it's up in the air. I'm not really doing anything except for playing the exact strength of my hand, which is usually a fish move in poker, so I'm probably a fish at this game. Hop in the comments, roast me, or tell me if you like my play, but I went ahead and potted it here. Actions on the opponent, they don't take too long before deciding to fold. So actually pretty stoked to just pull in this pot uncontested, but not really sure if I value own myself with the turn pot or not. Hop in the comments, let me know what you think about this. So those were the most interesting hands I played across the session. Very swingy, played plenty of big pots, as you can tell. Won some, lost some. This was my final stack when I did cash out. I sort of tipped the dealer to make it an even number, but I ended up cashing out for 500 after buying in for 600, including a few cheeky little top-ups. Bought in for 600. Out for 500, ended up losing 100 on the session, unfortunately, but this game was so swingy, man. There's so many double board bomb pods. I'm like, lucky that the loss wasn't bigger, I guess, especially considering I'm such a fish at PLO bomb pots. Regardless of losing the 100, had an absolute ball. Such a fun group of people to play poker with. Everyone was joking the whole time. People were getting like super animated when they won or lost hands, and it was just a great time, and absolutely stoked to play at this game and don't really care whether I win or lost because it was fun anyway. And we got the vlog out. I'm going to go with B+ for my gameplay grade. I really do think that mistake when I didn't bet the turn with pocket kings, it's a pretty egregious error in all honesty, so I can't go to quite that A grade, but I think for the rest of the session I was playing pretty well. It's so hard with the double ball bomb pots because your results are just going to be entirely dependent on how you run in those, in my opinion. But for all the hold'em hands, where I actually know what I'm doing, I think I played pretty well. Don't want to go down too harsh with a grade, but can't quite go to the A either. So we land on a B+. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the vlog. That really helps my channel's analytics, and I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Plenty of poker content to come out. We've got online poker vlogs, we've got live poker vlogs. I'm doing it all now. Melbourne's open back up, so hit the subscribe and get the videos when they come out. For now, I'm out of here. Peace.